Alrighty. Hello, everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, before we do begin, let me give a brief little review. In the last part, a number of events have happened. We had the York tournament. Deku, he saw what the other heroes have done. He saw Kirishima fight, Ochako fight, Bakugo fight, and then he faced off against his own opponent. Now, these matches were quite interesting. It allowed him to see the differences in tactics between the heroes. Kirishima fought an orc, and he went straight for hand-to-hand combat, knowing what they were like. Ochako had a strategy. The moment she saw a grimoire, she took it out and then began to fight her opponent. Whenever he was eventually covered in ice and could not break free, the referee assumed he was going to pass out or fall unconscious. So he freed him and told him the match was over. Bakugo fought against Voss, one of Deku's two teachers, the man who's helped Izuku improve massively in strength, hand-to-hand combat, and getting a well-adjusted form of fighting. Now, Voss, by the time Bakugo was all heated up, angry, and showing off power, he decided to end the match, pull from the tournament, instead of kicking Bakugo's ass and facing off against Izuku later. Why deny his apprentice the chance to fight someone who has angered his mind so thoroughly? Now, Deku, he faced off against an orc as well. However, whenever this man was in the ring, in the Colosseum, he paused the match before it began, asking the king to allow this match to be a death match. He is cursed, and his mind slips from him more every day. He would like mercy and to go down in a fight against another warrior. And the king allowed this. And Izuku, he took the man out swiftly. He did not show malice, nor did he show anger. After he took the man's head off, the match ended, and he needed a second to himself. Fighting off against someone who is cursed, killing them in combat after just talking with them, seeing how they do wish to take it into their own hands, die in battle a way they want. It's almost poetic in a way for an orc. He knows what they're like, but right now, he just wants to have a second to himself. That going through his head. Izuku right now sitting inside a room of the Colosseum, standing up and going to think. He's still got some time before the other matches. People are going to be facing off against each other as well. There's only 16 matches that really do matter. Boil those down to 8, 4, then 2. Theodore is rubbing off on him. Right. He's got some time, but if everyone else is a bit more of a pushover like right now, that's going to be a bit more of a problem. They won easily. I mean, the only one who had trouble was Bakugo, and that does somewhat brighten his spirits. If they can face off against each other, then he can take him on. Knock him off that pedestal he's put himself on for years. And this, it does give Deku a bit more of an idea for what he wants to do. Trying to develop a tactic to face off against the heroes. Face off against the opponents he'll face before then with what he's got. Work on the fly and make up a tactic as he does go. It's a bit chaotic. But with how versatile the heroes are, it has to be. He already knows how much power he does have, and he doesn't know their unique skills. The moment he finds out Bakugo's, he's going to need to work fast, going to need to work quickly. Ochako's and Kirishima's are still a bit more of a mystery. He doesn't know too much. He gets a white aura. Bakugo has a red one, assuming that that's what that was back at the tavern. But he also has a fire magic skill? Or is that his quirk? And this does make Deku somewhat begin to walk, turning and making his way further down into the corridor. Some people walking by. And as I turn, some of them are cloaked in different types of clothes. Some do make their way by rather quickly. He doesn't see a monk. He does get to see someone who could be considered a priestess. However, the design of her clothes are rather different for an orc, though she does not carry a sword at her waist nor a sword belt. So that does make Deku a little bit more curious. The woman turning and walking down the corridor. Before he has a turn and see somebody who does get to step out of a room. Them going to stop the woman and ask her questions. Since these statues, they are not working. And she is a little confused for bringing her hands up and telling them that they have carved them all themselves. They are here. If they're going unanswered, then she's a little busy at the moment. She's not in charge of any of this stuff. She's not supposed to be here anyway. So you know nothing? Deku's stepping forwards. Before he has to tell her to let go of her, the person will look up. Before the priestess is to turn to Deku, and he does just stand there, talking about it. She said she doesn't know. So leave it at that. And what is she talking about? Statues. Him going to watch Moon let go as she's away from over. Him make his way towards her and turning his head, still on guard, as he does see a large room. And it does begin to lead underground. I mean, this is something else. Deku turning his head. Before he does see a statue of Ritus. And it's large. It's got to be about 10 feet tall, and people are praying, holding their hands up, giving him magic. This on his mind. Before she's to ask him if he's ever seen a statue to the gods. He has to turn back, telling her about how he has not. But he has met Ritus. He's Izuku, one of the 4 heroes. And the person, they immediately don't have their eyes go wide. Before they do, gotta turn quickly and express to follow her. Stepping into this large room, make his way down some stairs and looking around. There's different statues of different people. He has a turn. See a statue of somebody who is wielding a massive sword and axe in their hand. And he has to see a statue of someone crying. Water magic is pouring from their eyes. And it has a drop down her face running into the fountain so it can be renewed. He's not really too sure. But he has a turn. Seeing another statue that does cry blood. And this is a little alarming to him. Turning and see another that is going to carry a scythe. And then one that is going to hold out its hand with a symbol carved onto it. And he can almost feel a maliciousness to that statue. Turning and seeing another statue holding a hammer. And that's another one. He goes to look around, seeing many of these statues. Turning to them. They look so eerie. They're carved of almost perfectly white marble. But that one statue, it's not even stained red. It's some sort of magic at work. This one's mine. seeing as people are praying in front of it. Before the person does get to tell him, if he does wish to talk to a deity, then take a knee, or approach the statue and omit a prayer. Perhaps they will gain favor in battle. For now. And Izuku, he does get to look around, quite alarmed and intrigued. Before he does get to approach Ritus' statue, making his way back over and going to fall to a knee, bringing his hand up and putting it directly on to the stone that is there. And he does go to close his eyes. People watching him as he does go to thank Ritus for a chance to do this. And about how he does hope he can accomplish his task and do something good. And Izuku, he does get to feel something odd, something foreign, something almost intense from the statue. And he does it as somewhat step backwards, looking up as the statue, it does go to smile at him. And this is a little odd. He doesn't remember seeing that on it. It's incredible. Wow. And people, they do something to stare. Right now, someone going to walk up and ask him exactly what he's going to be doing. Oh, hi. Do I know you? No, you don't. I'm participating in the tournament. Though, what are you doing here? I'm not sure. I just wound up here. But I felt something from that. Did you now? You already do have his favor. You do not need more. Perhaps try a different statue. Nuva is over there, for example. She is the goddess of water, ice, and she is of the moon, one of the twin moons in the sky. Right. I'm seeing a lot of statues I don't recognize, though. But it's incredible. This place is so fancy. No, that's not the word for it. It's well designed. Deku turning, expressing that it's just like how he saw him. He's nearly identical. Maybe completely. It's incredible. Before he said turn, and try to think, looking at many of the other statues, making his way over to the statue of the crying goddess, and he does get to look up. Thinking about it, there are many rules to this world he does not understand. If he can gain favor with another god, what does that mean? What can that do for him? And he does a step forwards. Before people do to watch Izuku, right now go to fall to one knee. Before he does go to bring his hand up and almost hesitate to touch the stone. However, he does it to put his hand onto the fountain and dip his hand inside, allowing his fingers to rest in the almost cold water. Before he does so express, he's not sure what he should really be doing here. It's strange here. Looking up, and right now people do somewhat going to gasp out as Deku does a turn his head to the statue, and it does go to look down at him. It moved. He has just stand there with his eyes wide, just trying to raise himself to his feet. And Deku, he does look down at his hand, as right now he does get to hear a voice begin to express, "It is all right. You can talk?" I am channeling mana into the statue, young man. I am Nuva. It is a pleasure to meet you. I was already happy with one of your offerings. So you did take my wine. Then I did. I do apologize. It's alright. I mean, this is incredible. Do you know how Raditz is doing? Is he okay? I remember he was injured last I spoke with him. But how does that work for deities? You are asking questions about him. You are not asking for favor? I'm already very powerful in your form of magic. Goddess Nuva. You are a hero. You may call me Nuva, or whatever title you do feel becomes of me. You are here on our behalf. Thank you. I'm sorry. I do appreciate that. The statue gonna smile before it bring its hand down and go to touch Izuku on the hair, expressing to him, he is still but a young man. In time he will gain more power. Stow his heart, and be aware. Death of the cursed, and death in general, it is not bad. He has had clouds trouble him himself, and like the rain, they will pour down to the land. Whenever he does face someone in combat, he will deal with great difficulty, take their life or not. Sometimes there are evil people, and they are better off like the cursed. When they do pass, things may be different. The corruption in their hearts, it might as well be a curse. Know this. Death is not good, nor is it evil. It is merely a friend that will carry you to the afterlife. It is the actions that cause it, however, that determine if you are evil. Falling in combat for a cause that is right is swift and easy. However, more other forms of death, they are not always equal, nor are they fair. In this life, you will face great difficulties, being from a world not known of war, not being a child born during war. He must remember, he is a hero. Many great sacrifices may come into his life. However, he must keep his heart unfiltered and keep it warm. If he does lose his heart, then she does fear for him. Remember this. Pulling her hand away, and Deku does still look up alarmed. Before someone does come running down the stairs, and he has a turn. Them shouting for Deku about how the last matchup before the heroes is coming on. So, if you didn't want to watch it, then you might want to hurry up. Deku turning, jumping to his feet and bowing his head, before going to smile. And the statue, it does not have tears running down it for a second. It going to slowly move forwards before it does tip its head to him. Him going to turn and run off to go see the rest of the matches. Now, Deku, whenever he does go to arrive, is surprised, since the match, it already ended, and right now, he is interested to know about his opponent, seeing a large Minotaur stepping out of the ring, before his opponent does lay there unconscious on the ground, and he does go stare at that, quite aware that that must be his next opponent. And this is rather intriguing. Deku staying there before we do actually have the mentors. All of them sitting in the stands close to the king of the orcs. And right now, there is where Theodore does get to turn his head. A man with red hair going to sit down, expressing about how he is rather intrigued to see this. It's nice to see you. It's been a little bit of time. Yes, it has, Theodore. I'm assuming your student has done well? He has. I would say he's done better than expected. Though, you know who he is already. I do. And that's what makes this quite interesting. What about your student? She should be doing fine. She has strong potential, but she does have her own little temper. I would say that this would help quell it. Though, from what I have heard, she is similar to one of the four heroes. And that is my problem with her. I see. Well then, do you know who she'll be going up against? I believe if she does win her matchup, after the Minotaur, she'll face yours. I see. I thought you were around, but I wasn't sure. So you made yourself known now, haven't you, sir? Well, it would be quite impolite. You wouldn't happen to have tea, would you? Theodore bringing his hands up, before, somewhat smiling, going to reach into his bag and begin to pull a few things out, telling his mentor, holding up a small little metal kettle, about how he should heat this up, and he'll grab the leaves, offering some to the other mentors of the other heroes. Before the Oni woman, she does go to accept this offer. Jock quite aware that this matchup will be quite interesting. Now then, with that being said, we do have the next round. Kirishima is up to brawl, and he is quite intrigued about what he'll be facing. When he does step out, he does see a regular man. He's wearing a bandana on his head. His arms are massive, and he does stand at 6'3", large and bulky. And he does have blackened nails that do somewhat look a bit more like claws. His stance is a bit more feral, almost like a standing bear, and this does catch his attention. Izuku watching on. The guy doesn't seem like he's got mana. Maybe he doesn't. Solely a combatant fighter? He doesn't have a sword either. He doesn't seem like a monk by the way he's acting either. His body language is more hostile, more feral. This on his mind. He's taken note of a lot of different races that exist. Apparently the Onis are real, and that's another thing. Demons, vampires, werewolves, stuff like that is real. Though, is this guy a werewolf? The question passing through his mind, quite intrigued about it, since that would mean either they're a cursed species or something else. And Izuku does gotta watch on, before Kirishima does gotta stand there, and the announcer does gotta begin the match. Him going to somewhat howl out angrily, before rushing Kirishima, who does gotta bring his hands up, getting ready as he does gonna fly up into the air and evade the man, flying forwards and kicking him directly inside the face, using reinforcement magic to offset his current momentum. Now, when we're just gonna kick him in the face, he's gonna kick him hard, flying past him as the man does a reach out and slash out towards Kirishima's leg, drawing blood as he is to try and grab out and throw him to the ground. Him barely grabbing him by the boot, And for it to come off, Kirishima does it a turn, bringing his hand up and immediately blasting out fire magic at the man, who does go throw his hand up and smash into it with a fist. Before he does go tell the young boy about how he wants a fight, a brawl, and if he's not going to give that to him, then things are going to get a little bit worse for him. And this immediately someone tells Deku what this guy is. Feral. An animal. Huh. So that's not good. Kirishima going to bring his hands up, as right now he has to go for his battle axe. Laying to the ground and begin to rush forwards, dashing forwards with incredible speed. Before the guy does get to rush Kirishima, him bring his own hands up as is a swing down the axe, it smashing down and across this guy's body. Before he does go to draw blood and the guy does a rush forwards, punching Kirishima across the face. And this does offset the young hero. Him going to immediately begin to reinforce his body as he does go back for an upswing, taking the second blow with a bit more ease before slicing into the man's chest once again. And this does begin to show Deku this feral side of this man. Currently, him going to watch Kirishima fly backwards and bring his hands up, blasting out with earth magic. Him firing earth bullets, and they do a strike into the man, him evading a blow that would have hit him in the neck. Before he does go to rush forwards in Kirishima, he does go to do one thing, throwing himself down and smashing his fist into the dirt, for pulling out gauntlets made of earth, throwing them up into the air as he does go to send the ground hurtling towards this man. Him going to leap up into the air as Kirishima does get this guy right where he wants him, before he has to throw out the earth and have it begin flying at him in a barrage of earth. Now, the bullets do go flying through the air, them smashing this man who does take the blows to his chin, his skin and chin. Right now, him going to crash down as Kirishima, he does cover his fist. Right now, going to smash them forwards hard into the man's chest. And the man, he does take the surprisingly hard gut blow directly to his stomach. Him offset for a second before he has to throw his hands up, trying to smash them on the side of Kirishima's head to take him down. Kirishima ducking underneath before jumping forwards, smashing the man in the head directly with his own. And whenever he does a stumble backwards, Kirishima does it to gain ground, rushing forwards and going to get in closer or casting Fireball. The man being blasted backwards to his stomach does begin to burn. And this, it does alarm the young hero. Right now, him going to have blood pouring from a part of his head. And Izuku does this stare at this, since this just got a little bit more intense. Okay. He's a hand-to-hand combatant, powerful, ignoring damage, but he's not used a technique yet. Magic, just raw brawn. Something's not right here. This being where his opponent does begin to fully stand, before he does go to suck in a breath and then go to open his eyes. The eyes shifting to red, before he is going to grow in size more and his arms do begin to bulge with muscle. His torso begins to harden and get covered in fur. A tail sprouting out of the back of his clothes before he does go to rip off the remnants of his large shirt, telling the young man, he faced the beast man, and if he does plan to fight, then they'll fight. However, he's going in with the intent to strike him down. He must fight. And Kirishima is taken aback. This dude's a werewolf. And Izuku, he doesn't feel like that's right. If he was a werewolf, wouldn't he have had the traits of a werewolf? Or, no, he wasn't a demi-human. But he's not entirely human? This is interesting. The man rushing forwards, going to rush at Kirishima with surprising speed. Him going to throw himself to the right before bringing his hand up, casting a barrier that does go to begin his own crack after the next strike. Kirishima going to turn and bring himself out. Before he does, going to use raw magic and fire off a magic missile. The man taking the blow whenever he was charging at him. Somewhat slings the momentum before he has a slide underneath the large creature and slashing him on the side of the leg with his battle axe. The man roaring out and turning before looking back at the hero who does going to bring his hands up. Right now, him going to begin to pull Earth out of the air and strike him down. Many of the tendrils of Earth begin to shoot down, as if giant toothpicks begin to try and impale the man in every direction. Inuzuku does notice the way that spell does look, as the man does take a blow to the shoulder and then going to take a blow directly to the thigh. Him alarmed as he does go to stand there, before bringing his hand up and going to break the spike out of his shoulder, looking at Kirishima and then going to snarl. And this does offset the hero, before he does go to stand up straight and begin to do one thing. He does begin to pour with magic. No, a skill. And Inuzuku does watch the man bring his hand up and begin to start pounding it to his chest, before he does let out a sound. In this, it does make Deku stare on, as Kirishima does activate his war cry. And right now, he does just stand there, covered in another aura. Orange? No. Red. It's almost like a blistering fire. In this, it does make him smile, as the hero does begin to rush forwards with surprising speed, going to slicing the man's side as he does spin and turn, the man clashing his claws with Kirishima's battle axe. Before, he has to throw his other hand down, and Kirishima has to throw up his shield, taking the blow where he's going to turn, immediately bring his arm up, slashing into the side of the man's arm, and then going to turn, throwing his foot up and trying to hit him in the head. The left foot going right past as he does, going to bring his hand up and go to summon Earth. It flying directly underneath him and smash the man up in the gut, pushing him back. Before he has to turn and land and then go to spin, bring his hand up and summoning the Earth to follow his command. It flying past the man as that, massive, boot of Earth essentially goes directly out. It pulling away from itself and rematerializing to Kirishima's will. And the man, he does begin to try and block. Kirishima rushing to the left and then going to step in, rushing to the right and going to move forwards. Him going to slice the man across the other arm before turning, kicking him in the back. And this, it does mean a bit. The man going to fall to the ground, quite alarmed, before he is trying to catch his breath, and Kirishima does get a step forwards, telling the man it's not going to work. If he does plan to do something, then he'll end the match. Before he's to bring his hand up and begin to summon multiple magic missiles. People watching as the red missiles do begin to form together up in the air. 5 of them right above the man, staring at Kirishima, who does keep his hand up in the air. Before he does go to turn, closing his hand, allowing all his fingers to lay flat. And the man does stare at him. Before he does try and rush Kirishima, and he has to throw his hand down into a fist and pull it down. And then the magic missiles do immediately begin to bombard this man. Him going to throw up a shield as they do explode. And the man, whenever he is seen again, he is laying there in a massive amount of damage. Before he does try to get back onto his feet. Currently him reverting back to his human form as he does still try and stand. Him covered in blood and going to look up before staring at Kirishima, who does go to lower his weapon. Beginning to walk towards his opponent as the man is going to fall forwards, collapsing to the ground. And this does give Kirishima his victory. Now, Deku, he does get to watch on, staring at this display of power. That was interesting. His skill. What is it? Similar to his own? It definitely enhanced his abilities. But now that does raise the question as to what it will be. Huh. Okay. This does mean quite a bit. And there is where Deku does watch Ochako's match. Her stepping out, as right now, she does look a little bit more worried. Seeing her opponent. Right now, a woman stepping out into the arena. Izuku, he does it a watch. A woman who is an Oni. Her skin is slightly pale. Her hair is lighter. She has those horns sticking out of her head. And she's a warrior. Okay. That's not good. She's highly skilled in swordsmanship. He can tell that by her armor. There's damage, there's a scar somewhere. But he can't get a read on it. Her armor does show signs of use. Magic? Potentially. Okay. Ochako's going up against a warrior, and she's a mage. One of these two are naturally disadvantaged in this. Okay. This is going to be interesting. And he does the watch on. Watching as the match does go to begin. And the person, they immediately leap forwards, rushing towards Ochako and sending out a sword slash. Deku watching on as the slashes are fly through the air. Ochako bring up her shields as she does go to take the attack and then bring her hands up, beginning to blast out with raw magic. Her watching as the magic does a fly through the air towards her opponent, who does begin to evade and slash into some of her strikes. Her going to pull her second sword and go to dodge out of the way of another attack, before they do begin to send out strikes directly at her, sending a slash to the left and a slash to the right. Ochako using her shield and going to block the two slashes, before her shields are able to take the blow, and he does little watch that. The Oni rushing forwards at high speed, before they throw themselves into the air and then go to smash their feet directly into the shield. Her stepping backwards as it is at a break. Right now, her bring her hand up and trying to use light magic. The woman going to take the attack as is a slash striking in to her shoulder. Ochako watching on before the woman does get a turn, quickly trying to slash out at her and slicing her in the gut, before she has a step backwards, bringing her hands back and going to cast mage armor. Her body being covered by it. And whenever the one does try and slash down with her strikes again, Ochako does throw her arms up. Them going to catch the swords as they do, going to slash onto the armor and then going to move in different directions. Her going to throw her foot up and go to smash into the woman's chest. Her sliding backwards for immediately going to step forwards. Ochako throwing her hands down as she does go to try and cast ice magic, freezing the woman in place. However, the woman, she does go to have her foot get caught before going to rip it right back up. Her throwing her foot out towards Ochako. As right now, she has got to kick out with wind magic. This surprising her. Ochako sliding backwards before she does going to feel her armor cracking. And the woman does going to draw her swords in with raw magic. Her having her eyes glow and then bring them both up, flattening them before she's being sent out a fury of slashes directly at the girl. Ochako going to bring her hands up and go to throw her left hand up to cast the shield. Now, this does allow her a second to breathe, trying to think of a tactic against this opponent. She's not letting up. Shit. She can... No. In a sword fight, she'll lose. Damn it. Speed? Come on. She has to think of a way to beat her. A way to do this. Her gonna fly up into the air as she does bring her hand up, begin to cast magic missiles. Her flying them down directly at her opponent, who does go to roll the way of one and then go to bring her hand up, slashing out with fire blades. The slash of fire going to make its way out to Ochako, spreading out high and mighty. Her going to fly over the attack before she does get a turn, watching as right now the woman just throw her swords down into the ground, her ripping them up hard and casting a wall of flame. Ochako quite alarmed before she does go to bring her hands up to protect her eyes from the bright flash. Her throwing her hands out and ready for an attack, ready to take down this woman. However, whenever she doesn't go to see her through the smoke, she doesn't look around. Before she does have someone smash her directly in the back and begin to fly her down to the ground. Her crashing down as the woman does go to stand up and put her sword directly to the back of Ochako's neck. Her telling her about how she does believe that does mean she wins. Does she give up, hero? And she does also lay there. Her turning her head as the sword is put further against her throat. And she does begin to feel blood trickle down the side of her neck. And the woman does get to tell her. She's powerful. But she has a weakness. She fights at a distance, not close range. Keep the pressure on, and she can be taken down. Remember this. It could save her life. Her pulling her blade away and then beginning to slide it into the holster. Bring her hand out as Ochako does a turn. Her looking at the woman before she could concede her match. And this, it does somewhat surprise Deku. She's powerful. Used a tactic. She blinded Ochako. Then went around to the left and, that could be useful. Bit of a dirty trick. But, okay. Bakugo must be primarily a magic caster as well. He's got darkness, explosions. Okay. This is making things a lot easier for him. If he can keep the pressure on the Bakugo, he can win. Okay, that's good. He does have an idea as to what to do. And this is where the match does at an end. The two parting away as Deku does begin to watch Bakugo step into the ring. His opponent coming out ready for battle. Deku seeing a demi-human, the spider-kin, the massive man with 8 arms. In this, it does make Bakugo somewhat scowl, remembering his match where his opponent forfeited before he can win. In this, it does mean quite a bit. Deku's staring on, feeling Bakugo's annoyance from here, his unique skill clearly activated by this, though it does mean quite a bit. And Izuku does the watch, waiting for whatever might be happening. And when the match does get to begin, he does immediately get to watch Bakugo cast magic, going to blast out an Eldritch Blast directly at the man, who does go to spin around and go to bring his hands up, evading the attack as he does see strings begin to form from the man's hands. And they do a lash out trying to find Bakugo. Him seeing this and going to draw his blade, going to slice through the air and go to evade the attacks. Before one, it does immediately draw blood and slice into his arm. This alarming him as he has a step backwards and going to move quickly. Him reinforcing his body as he does bring his hands up, blasting out with fireballs. Him spamming the attacks as he has a send out 3, then 4. Watching as a spider dude does begin to start moving towards him. Quickly going to evade the attacks before one does a smash on one of his arms. The limb going to be set moving backwards before he does go to recover. Bring his hand up and going to create a wall of silk. Him going to throw this net out as he does, gonna block him for the next attack he does gonna send. Raw magic going to be sent directly at him as he does get a watch as a magic missile does a blast into the wall, breaking through and exploding. The man rushing through the mist as he does make his way towards the opponent. Bakugo bringing his hand up and going to use his unique skill. And Izuku, he does get to feel it from here. As the man does a freeze, makes way towards his opponent. Bakugo throwing his hand up and sending an eldritch blast striking to the man's chest. The man going to take the attack and be sent flying to the ground. Before he is rolling and sitting there for a second, wheezing breath, getting back to his feet before turning to look at Bakugo, who does just stand there, making his way towards him, bringing up his massive sword, stepping forwards and roaring out in anger. And the man does bring his hands up, beginning to try and capture the sword and make sure it cannot hit him. However, when he does bring the strings, he does go to take an attack directly to one of his arms. It going to have the bracer on it be struck. And he does go to try and hold back what he can, bring his other arms up to help that one. Though the opponent does throw his foot up, smashing him in the chest as hard as possible. The man nearly killing over before Bakugo does step forwards and throw his hand back, smashing him on the back as hard as he can. And when his opponent does a smash to the ground in a small crater, he does just stand there, watching before he does go to bring his hand up and go to cast explosions. Deku watching the magic circle form in front of his hand before his opponent is immediately blasted backwards, smashing away on the other side of the Colosseum. Him going to somewhat smile before the man does lay there unconscious. And the referee does get to call the match. Though Izuku, he did see how he acted. He did too much. He took him by surprise and caught him off guard with that skill. His heart skipped a beat for a second. And he was over here. He can't imagine what that must have been like over there. So, he can stun you. That's what he can do. It's almost... That's not good. The announcer calling out for him to step into the ring. And he does go to do so. Beginning to look around. He's being watched by the other heroes. He knows this. He can feel a particular gaze trying to stare a hole into his head. Though, he does go to see his opponent, the Minotaur, stepping out. Quite intrigued about this. Quite aware as to what's going to be happening. He wants to know what happens. And that will be good. And the Minotaur, whenever he does come stepping out with a massive battle axe, Deku does want to look at his own sword, worried about how this one will do. Bula gave him this sword, and she might not like it if he does break it. It's a powerful weapon. Reinforcing it will be good. But against that battle axe, he's not too sure. He's not confident it will hold up. The sword in Deku's hand going to disappear with its holster as he does open his inventory. And the Minotaur does begin to ask exactly what the young hero is going to be doing. And the announcer does ask Izuku if he does concede the match. And he does go to bring his hand up as two holsters do appear in his hand. And people do begin to watch on. As the purple and black leather, it does go to appear in his hand. Him going to put these onto his waist before he is to pull the blades out, and he does go to stand there, holding two swords and talking about it. He had to grab stronger weapons. And the Minotaur does go to stare him down before he does go to say to the Dragon Slayer, "Those better be what he thinks they are, otherwise he might die." And people do begin to somewhat listen in, as the king does go raise a hand and announce to begin the match. And the announcer does begin to do so, telling the two to proceed. And the Minotaur does a rush forwards. Izuku holding on to these two blades. They're just like Bula's sword. They're not too big. They're not too wide. But they're made from the bones of a wyvern, infused with some pretty damn good metal. So, along with some reinforcement magic, he'd say they're pretty damn indestructible. Especially considering the fact that wyvern skulls, they're made of a thick, thick bone. So yeah, he's confident he can take this thing on. Minotaur still charging Deku, throwing his weapon up and throwing it back down, before Izuku does across his blades and pour magic into them. Right now, him catching the blade of the Minotaur, holding his swords as an X before he does someone turn into a V. Izuku holding back the man's large strike as he does try to move forwards, putting all his weight down on Izuku, who does go to slice his blades forwards and then go to step in. Him too close in range for a slash at the Minotaur's leg, the knife slicing through almost like butter. And he does a turn, watching the Minotaur fall to a knee and then just roar out in pain. Izuku going to step under his leg as he is a duck, moving backwards quickly. Him staying there for seconds, the Minotaur does get a turn, annoyed before telling the young man that he hasn't had a slice like that in a long time. He'll wear it with pride, though he's not going to go easy. Izuku does get a nod his head, bring up both of the blades and holding them in front of him. And people do get to watch on. That is the Dragon Slayer. They can tell quite clearly. Those swords are made of bone. And what better bone could a sword be made from? If it's not dragon, it would have to be something bigger, deadlier, stronger. And right now, Deku, he does gotta hold up his weapons ready. Before he has to hear some roaring from the crowd, turning his head for a second before turning back, confused and turning to see that he does see Pyra and Oliver, along with a few other people in the stand, them cheering him on, as he's to turn back and see the Minotaur rushing towards him. And he does go to bring his hands up and begin to send out slashes, before he has to send an ice slash at the Minotaur, it rushing towards him and then going to take the blow of ice, it slowly covering him before he has to send out a fire slash, and the man does take the attack. Izuku on the move and ready, rushing towards him as he does clash his sword with the man's axes, or the man's axe. Now, Izuku is on the move, ready and willing to face him, and the man, he does gotta take the strikes before he's gonna throw his hands back and try to send them down more. Send them down with an intensity. Izuku going to hit the axe and go to throw his hand out before he has a turn, pulling his right sword back and then going to move to the right. The battle axe falling to the left as Izuku does throw his sword out, smashing it up and impaling it through the man's arm. And the man, he does roar out in pain. Izuku slicing the sword as he does then pull it out, and the man's left arm is left immobile, unmovable. Him still trying to hold up his forearm as he does hold onto the blade, turning with his massive battle axe. And Izuku does stare at him before he does get a think, looking down at his wrist before he's a turn to Sir Theodore. And the man does shake his head no, not yet. That matchup has yet to occur. He's not in a desperate situation. And Izuku doesn't understand. Before he has a turn, the Minotaur charging him as he does go to hold up his axe, throwing it high over his head, and Deku, he does go to leap up into the air, evading the attack as the Minotaur does throw up his left arm. It not as useless as Deku thought. And the man is able to grab Deku by his legs and throw him back down to the ground, smashing him into it hard as Izuku, he does get a crash into the stadium, Right now, him going to look up as the Minotaur does to pull back his weapon. Him throwing it down as Deku does to throw up his swords. Him catching the axe once again, and this time trying to think about how to handle the situation. What to do. And he does go to somewhat roar out as he has to send a blast of fire directly through his blades, it slicing through the metal of his axe. Him watching as the axe does make somewhat melt and fall onto his armor. The piece of it going to stick to his armor as he has to quickly get up and watch as the Minotaur does go to let go of his burning weapon. Him going to step towards Deku with his fist up high. And Izuku is going to throw his swords down and going to throw his hands up, bringing them up and catching the Minotaur's large fist. Before he does, going to throw it down and immediately rush towards him, smashing him in the throat hard as the Minotaur does go to step backwards. Him going to be offset. And Deku, where he has a smash down, he has a blast himself forward with magic, kicking the Minotaur as hard as he can in the gut. And the man isn't careening down to the ground and going to sit there. Deku going to fly himself up into the air and then go to arc himself over before crashing down on the man's gut as the Minotaur does a cough blood. Deku standing on his chest before walking to its head, bringing his foot down to his neck and manifesting his regular sword, holding it out to the man's face, asking if he does yield. And the man, he does a smile through a mouthful of bloody teeth before he does to tell the referee. He does yield. He doesn't have a weapon. And he feels fair. The man announcing to the crowd about the current position of the Minotaur. And everyone, they do just won't roar out as Bakugo is annoyed, not sure if he does want Deku to face him, since the next matchup is going to be Kirishima's, and that does mean quite a bit. They're heading towards the finale, and that he can't wait for. But at the same time, he is curious, since Izuku has blades made from dragon bone, and that's got to be some strong ass material. Maybe he should find some of it himself. So I'm going to scoff in waiting, since Kirishima does step out for his next match. And with that being said, Deku does it a watch, as right now Kirishima does stand there ready and waiting, holding up his battle axe as an orc, there we go, does a step out. Deku staring at the matchup before his eyes go wide. And Bula does get a step out, her holding her weapon up and roaring out to her people, before she should turn and go to roar out to Izuku, him holding his hand up to wave, before Bula does turn back and talk about how the last time she faced off against a hero, the two were nearly dead even. So she is curious to see what this one can do, holding up her weapon and being on the ready. And Kirishima is to hold up his battle axe, well aware that this opponent has faced off against somebody. And with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.